Hello, welcome back to Ignite Your Fire Within. Again, we're going to be moving through a standing sequence today. So I'm going to invite everyone to the front of their mats into their Tadasana position. Finding that firm foundation through the big toe mound, the pinky toe mounds, and the heels, with the feet anywhere from hip distance apart to big toe mount and big toe touching with the heels slightly separated. As we begin to work that length out of this foundation, that gentle activation of the quadriceps, we'll hug the low belly and letting the tailbone begin to reach towards the earth, working that length into the lower back. The floating ribs will draw together as we find that extension out of our foundation, letting the shoulders relax as we reach through the top of the head towards the sky. We'll just allow ourselves a few moments to draw the awareness of our mind to our natural, rhythmic flowing breath. Just noticing how each inhale is a gentle expansion, and each exhale is that ability to release into our foundations. And as we find this natural flowing breath, and that smoothness and calmness that exists with it. And we'll try to maintain that smoothness and calmness as we move through our practice today. And gently, we'll begin to hinge at the hips, folding into that forward fold, letting the knees bend as much as necessary to draw that stomach to thigh connection. As we gently draw opposite hand to opposite elbow here in this forward fold, just inviting a little bit of extra mass for gravity to draw upon. Maybe we'll sway to the left, to the right, a little bit of ergonomic movement through our spine with our ragdoll. And as we even that ragdolling motion out, making our way back to our midline, we'll release the hands to the earth, finding our lift to our half forward fold. Encouraging that reach through the chest to the wall in front of us, we let the shoulders roll back and down as we continue to utilize the strength of our core. And then gently we'll invite the length to our legs, inviting that stretch into our hamstrings. And gently we release back to our forward fold, that stomach to thigh connection. Perhaps this time we can wrap the arms around the legs gently, finding opposite hand to opposite elbow. And maybe we can even reach the elbows down towards the heels, inviting that stretch a little bit more through the upper back. Maybe we want to start to reach the hips gently towards the sky as we encourage the depth of the stretch through our hamstrings. And then as we continue to allow ourselves to breathe, finding that stretch along the posterior chain, the back side of our body. And gently we'll release the hands from the elbows and from around the legs as we begin to lift to our half forward fold, reaching through the chest forward and up. As we continue to maintain the length in our spine, inviting that length through our legs, and gently releasing back into our forward fold. That hinge at the hips, that gentle bend in the knees that creates that stomach to thigh connection. And then as we find this forward fold, keeping that stomach to thigh connection, we'll gently draw the hands to our tailbone. Interlacing the fingers together, we encourage the reach through the knuckles with the palms connected, finding that length of the arms. And then we'll begin to extend the hands up towards the sky. Maybe those hands can begin to work their way up and over the head into that shoulder stretch with this variation of our forward fold. And we'll begin to draw the hands gently back to the tailbone as we reach through the chest forward and up. We'll unlace the hands from the tailbone. The hands will gently begin to release to the earth as we release back to our forward fold. Finding ourselves gently beginning to roll up one vertebrae at a time, utilizing the core strength to encourage each vertebrae to stack one atop the other. Finding that stretch slowly moves up the back, the shoulders will remain relaxed as they slide back and down. We continue to find that extension out of our foundations. We begin to reach the crown of the head towards the sky, making our way into our standing Tadasana. And gently we'll take our left foot and we'll step it back about 4 feet. We'll take those left toes, we'll gently turn them out to about a 45-degree angle. And then we'll begin to bend our right knee, drawing that right knee either directly above or just behind our right ankle as we keep the length through that left leg. Beginning to make our way into our Warrior One, we want to make sure those hips have stayed parallel to the front of our mat. Hugging the low belly in, we continue to find that tailbone reaches towards the earth as we invite the length across the front side of our left hip, drawing that stretch into our psoas muscle grouping. The floating ribs will hug together as we continue to lengthen through the spine, the shoulders relax back and down. Maybe those hands will extend all the way up towards the sky, finding that upper half of an Utthita Hastasana, our extended standing. And as we find our way to this Warrior One, continuing to allow our breath to flow, we'll gently begin to release the hands behind the back, interlacing the fingers together. We'll begin to reach through the knuckles, first towards the earth as we find the length through our arms. And then we'll let the shoulders gently draw back and down. That begins to increase the length across the collarbones as we maintain the length through our spine. And then we'll find ourselves hinging at the hips, reaching the chest forward. We want to keep the length here in our spine as we begin to work that stomach down towards that front right quadricep. And as we work our way into this forward fold over our right leg, we'll let the chest perhaps relax in towards the knee as we begin to draw the hands gently up towards the sky, finding that stretch through the shoulder girdle into our humble warrior. Now the really cool thing about our humble warrior is that it keeps that warrior foundation, the hips squared to the front of our mat, as we fold forward, really inviting the stretch into that front right hamstring, building the strength through that front right quadricep as we continue to reach through that back left leg all the way into the earth. And then gently we'll find ourselves reaching through the chest forward and up as those shoulders draw back up and over the hips. We can find that the hands will unlace from the tailbone and we'll just draw the hands to our hips. Inviting that front right leg gently to straighten. We'll keep the hips parallel to the front of our mat. We'll take our left foot and we'll step it out towards the left side of our mat, just far enough to draw the heels in line with their hips respectively. Now we might notice that we want to turn those left toes towards the front of the mat just a little bit more as we start to make our way into our pyramid posture. We want to hug the low belly in, keep the length through the spine. We'll begin to reach through the chest forward as we fold halfway. As we find this halfway fold, we want to just double check, make sure those hips remain parallel to the front of our mat. We'll take the hands to the tailbone, gently interlace those fingers together as we lengthen through the arms, reaching through the knuckles. And maybe this is where we hang out. Maybe we want to find that we can fold forward a little bit further, encouraging that depth of our stretch through that right quadricep. Maybe the hands begin to reach up towards the sky. Maybe they'll fall over the head. Whatever posture that we find for ourselves, we're going to find ourselves there for a few moments. And gently we'll begin to extend through the chest, forward and up, drawing the shoulders back up and over the hips. The hands gently release back to our tailbone. We'll unlace the hands, we'll draw those hands to the heart center. We'll allow a very gentle bend into that front right knee, shifting our body weight into that front right leg. We'll step the left foot up to meet the right into our chair posture. Finding that the knees are gently bent, the feet firmly grounded into the heels as we encourage that lift out of this firm foundation. We're going to begin to hug the low belly in, lengthen through the spine, drawing the floating ribs together, letting the shoulders relax, and then gently we'll extend those hands all the way up to the sky for our chair posture. And then as we begin to extend through the legs, we'll release the hands to the heart center, making our way to our standing with the hands at the heart center. And we'll release the arms alongside the body. We're going to take those right toes, the right foot, and we're going to gently step it back about 4 feet. We're going to turn those right toes out to the right side of the mat, about a 45-degree angle. Then we're going to begin to keep those hips nice and square to the front of the mat as we allow that left knee to gently bend, drawing the left knee either directly above or just behind that left ankle. We want to continue to work the length through our right leg so that we find that firm foundation. What's really fun is we can squeeze those feet gently together, working the strength through the inner hip flexor, noticing that strength of that foundation. We hug the low belly in, the tailbone gently reaches to the earth, those floating ribs will draw together, the shoulders relax back and down as we find that extension through the fingertips for our warrior one here. And gently we'll draw those hands to our tailbone. Interlacing those fingers together, we reach through the knuckles. We find that length of the arms. Let the shoulders gently draw back and down the spine, creating the length across our collarbones. As we hug the low belly in, drawing those floating ribs together, the hinge at our hips as we begin to reach through the chest towards the wall in front of us. And as we continue to hinge, finding that stomach to thigh connection over that front left leg. And noticing how we're just working that forward fold here over this warrior foundation that builds us into our humble warrior. Finding maybe that chest to knee connection. Maybe we let that neck relax, the head falls freely towards the earth. Maybe it begins to work its way towards the shin. The hands gently begin to extend up towards the sky as we invite that stretch into our shoulder girdle. And gently, as we draw the gaze forward, reaching through the chest, forward and up, working those shoulders slowly up and over the hips, the hands release back to the tailbone. And we'll invite those hands to unlace, drawing them to the hips, straightening through that front left leg. We want to step that right foot out towards the right edge of our mat, just enough to draw the heels in line with their respective hips. And maybe we'll turn those right toes forward just a touch, building that pyramid posture foundation. We're going to keep the length through the legs. We hug the low belly in, work that extension through the spine, and gently we'll start to reach the chest forward as we hinge at the hips to our half fold point. And we want to ensure that those hips are nice and parallel to the front of the mat, that we have that nice extension through both legs. And then we'll gently draw the hands to our tailbone. Interlacing the fingers together, gently reaching through the knuckles towards the wall behind us, maintaining that length through those arms and the spine. Maybe we'll allow ourselves to begin to fold a little further forward, finding the depths of this pyramid posture. Maybe those hands begin to extend up towards the sky. Maybe they even begin to fall over the head, working that stretch into our shoulder girdle. And as we continue to allow ourselves to breathe here in this pyramid posture, allowing that stretch through that front left hamstring. And as we draw the gaze forward, reaching through the chest forward and up, gently working those shoulders up and over the hips, we'll unlace the hands as the hands will draw back to our hips. We'll invite a gentle bend into that left knee, beginning to shift that body weight forward. We step that right foot up to meet the left into our chair pose. So we want to find that strength and that foundation. The weight has moved into the heels of the feet. That strength of the body is in our quadriceps. We want to continue to lengthen out of this foundation, hugging the low belly in, drawing the floating ribs together. We let the shoulders gently relax back and down as we extend through the fingertips towards the sky. And then we'll begin to work that length into the legs. The hands will gently release to the heart center. Finding a nice inhalation and an audible exhalation here. And gently we'll find our way sitting into our chair pose. Finding that bend in the knees draws the weight into the heels and the strength into our quadriceps. The hug of the low belly extends that tailbone gently towards the earth. Those floating ribs hug together, continuing to lengthen through the spine. Now what's really fun is we're going to make our way into our warrior three from here. So we're going to start to hinge at the hips, but we're only going to fold halfway into that fold. As we find that our body becomes about parallel with the earth, we'll gently lift our right foot off the earth as we begin to extend that right foot back behind us, keeping that leg nice and long as it begins to draw to about parallel to the earth as well. Now we notice that those hips want to remain parallel to the earth. We find that extension from the right heel all the way through the crown of the head. Maybe the hands draw to the heart center. Maybe they stay extended over the head, or perhaps draw alongside the body, reaching towards that wall behind us in little airplane arms. And we begin to work that extension through that left leg, finding that stretch that comes into that hamstring of the left leg, that strengthening through the glutes and across the backside of the pelvis. And gently we'll find ourselves starting to fold forward with the torso. So we let that pelvis hinge further, the hips hinge further. We hug the low belly and let that lengthening through the spine, maybe the hands release to the earth, and that's about the depth we can find. Maybe we fold all the way over that front leg as that back right leg begins to reach up towards the sky as much as our body allows. Now we're not trying to force that foot up. We want to find that we can extend the foot up towards the sky with ease and comfort and a little bit of challenge sprinkled in. Finding these standing splits. And gently we'll let that right foot float down to meet the left into our forward fold as we let the knees bend as much as necessary, drawing that stomach to thigh connection as we allow ourselves to relax the torso over the legs. And as we allow ourselves a few moments here, we'll gently begin to draw the gaze forward. We reach the chest forward up to that half forward fold. And gently, we begin to release back into our forward fold, and we'll find ourselves rising back up into our chair, drawing the weight into the heels, that gentle bend in the knees, the strength through the quadriceps, the hug of the low belly as we lengthen out of this foundation. And gently, we'll invite that hinge through the hips as we fold the torso halfway, drawing it parallel to the earth. We'll begin to lift that left foot off the earth as it extends back towards the wall behind us, seeing as we can draw that left leg parallel to the earth in line with the torso so that we can reach from the heel of that left foot all the way up through the leg, extending through the spine as we reach through the top of the head in front of us. And then maybe we'll draw the hands to the heart center. Perhaps they extend over the head, finding that reach through the fingertips. Maybe they draw alongside the body, reaching towards the wall behind us as we begin to work that extension through our right leg. Finding our way into that warrior three, those hips nice and parallel to the earth still, as we find that strength through those glutes, that stretch through our hamstring of that grounded foot. And we'll begin to invite ourselves into a gentle forward fold. So we hinge at the hips, we allow that torso to begin to fold over that front leg, the hands will gently ground upon the earth, that back leg gently begins to extend up towards the sky. Finding the stretch that's available for ourselves. Now realize that the standing splits is a very difficult posture to perfect, to master. So we want to work our way to the capabilities that we have. That way we find both the challenge and the effort that it takes to maintain comfort and stability. And gently we'll float that extended foot down to meet the ground as we find ourselves relaxing into this forward fold. That gentle stomach to thigh connection, maybe even a chest to knee connection as the arms relax in towards the earth. We'll draw opposite hand to opposite elbow, gently finding a little ragdolling motion here. And as we make our way back to our midline, gently releasing the hands back towards the earth. And we're going to find ourselves bending the knees as much as necessary. We're going to step the feet to about 6 inches apart. We're going to take our peace fingers and we're going to draw them around our big toes in a yogi lock. As we find that yogi lock with those hands, we're going to gently begin to reach the chest forward and up to that half forward fold with the upper body. Notice how we've allowed the legs to remain gently bent. So we start to work this length through the spine. We find that yogi lock around the big toes. Maybe we begin to extend the hips towards the sky, working the legs towards straightening. Now that could be super intense. Maybe it's really easy, and we can find a little bit more depth as we reach the chest towards the earth. So we want to find that length continues to extend through the legs. Those hips continue to reach up towards the sky. We keep the length through our spine as we find the depth that's available to us. And then very gently, we'll find that we can invite the knees to bend as we reach the chest forward and up to that halfway point. Finding that we either keep this yogi lock, or we can intensify our posture by drawing the hand completely underneath the foot so that the toes are up by our wrist and that those fingertips are back by our heels. And then we're going to find that same sequencing. As we begin to reach to the chest forward and up, we keep that length through the spine. We'll gently begin to invite that stretch into the hamstrings a little bit deeper as we reach the hips towards the sky. And again, this might be super intense. This might be super easy. And if it's easy, we want to find that reach of the chest forward as it begins to gently drop towards the earth. We keep that extension out of that foundation as we really invite that length across the back side of our body. And as we find ourselves here, working that stretch through those hamstrings up through the hips, keeping that length through the spine with the strength of our core. Gently we'll release our hands from our feet, lifting to our half forward fold. We'll gently release into our forward fold as we're going to find ourselves gently rolling up one vertebrae at a time, stacking each vertebrae one atop the other as we invite that stretch up the back. The shoulders relax back and down. We extend through the crown of the head. And then we'll step the feet about mat distance apart, just wider than shoulder distance. We're going to hug the low belly in. We're going to draw the hands to our heart center. We're going to begin to release the sit bones down towards the earth, finding our way into our Malasana squat. And we're going to find our way again into our Bakasana posture, or our crow posture. Another little arm balance. They're quite fun, but they also are very challenging as they encourage us to move through fear. So as we find those hands grounding upon the earth, just about shoulder distance apart, we want to notice that the knee is in connection with the upper arm, either above the elbow, on the tricep, or right at the shoulder area. So anywhere up on that upper arm. As we hug the knee to the upper arm, I want us to shift the body weight forward. So as we start to shift our body weight forward, we'll notice that the heels will lift off the ground. We roll onto the ball of our foot. We keep that body weight moving forward. We're going to start to gently bend the elbows, keeping that body weight moving forward. As those elbows continue to bend, we'll notice that those feet will begin to float on their own off of the earth. Now, we don't need to worry about whether the feet float or not. What we want to focus on as we move into this crow is shifting our body weight forward and letting the elbows bend. Trying to keep the elbows directly above our wrists as we find that shoulder weight takes that spine with it as we move forward onto the hands. And once we get up there, we can find that ability to balance. Maybe we draw the big toes to touch. Maybe we find that we start to reach the heels and the sit bones to connect as much as our body allows. And then as we find ourselves playing around here for a few moments, we'll gently rock back onto our feet, grounding through the sit bones, extending the legs out in front of us as we make our way into our Tadasana posture. And we'll give ourselves a moment to reposition onto our mats. And as we find ourselves gently grounded through those sit bones, the hug of the low belly, that lengthening through the spine, those legs extended out in front of us, we're going to make our way into our Paschimottanasana, a gentle hinge at the hips as we reach through the chest forward towards the toes, keeping that length through the spine. And the hinge at the hips is that really important part as it takes that pelvis forward with this fold so that we really invite that stretch through those hamstrings and along those glutes. And as we draw the tops of the feet in towards the body, we work that stretch through the entirety of the legs. And gently we'll begin to reach through the chest forward and up. We'll work the shoulders back up and over the hips. We'll find that the soles of the feet will draw together as we allow those knees to gently fall outward, finding our way into our bound angle. The hug of our low belly here lengthens through the spine. We reach through the chest forward as we gently begin to fold forward over this bound angle, letting the legs relax and those hips relax. Noticing how this movement and the stability of this posture comes from the core. Drawing that low belly in as we allow that pelvis to move forward, we continue to lengthen through the spine. And gently we'll draw the gaze forward. We'll begin to reach the chest forward and up, finding that length through the spine. We'll draw the knees together, gently rolling one vertebrae at a time onto our backs. As we find our legs gently begin to extend out in front of us. The arms will relax alongside the body as we find those firm foundation through the pelvis and the shoulders. We'll gently begin to extend through those legs as we lift those feet off the earth, gently passing a 30-degree angle, and then that 60-degree angle, and then the soles of those feet reach straight up towards the sky here into our candlestick posture. That firm foundation through the pelvis and the shoulders. We'll encourage the knees to gently bend into the chest. We'll extend the arms out to a T. We'll find the knees gently release over to the right-hand side. Continuing to ground through the shoulders, maybe the gaze releases over to the left fingertips, here in our spinal twists. And then gently we'll draw the gaze back up to the sky, the knees back into the chest. And we'll find that the knees will begin to release over to the left-hand side. The shoulders continue to ground. The gaze draws over to those right fingertips into that nice spinal twist. And we'll just allow ourselves to relax here momentarily. And the gaze will gently draw back up to the sky, the knees back into the chest. We'll extend the legs out in front of us. We'll relax the arms alongside the body, finding that Shavasana posture, our final relaxation. And as we allow ourselves to melt into the earth, drawing the awareness of our mind through our body as we notice the strengths and the stretches that we moved through in our practice today. As we reflect upon that practice, noticing how at times there were some things that are difficult and challenging, and then there were aspects that were simple and easy. And as we gently invite movement back to our bodies, we can begin to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Perhaps we roll the wrists and the ankles in circles. Maybe we even stretch as if we had woken from a nap. And then we'll gently begin to work the knees in towards the chest, rocking over onto our right-hand side here in this fetal position, as we can remain in connection with that natural flowing breath. And gently we'll work our way to a comfortable seated position. Anything simple cross-legged, our adept's posture, or half lotus, whatever's available and comfortable. And as we find that comfortable seated position, that grounding through the sit bones, that lengthening through the spine, I just want to end with a thank you. A thank you for your efforts. A thank you for your practice. And namaste.